Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and we're going to take our first look at the UFC card for this coming weekend, which is the last card of the year. Um, we're going to do what we did last week, which was extremely successful. We're going to take an early look at the card today. We're going to take another look at the card maybe tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting to see how my thoughts on these fights develop throughout the course of the week, given the state of content at that particular time. Like right now, I'm going to be doing my first look at these salaries and tell you what I think of these fights. I'm not absorbing any content yet or anything like that. We do have the props out already, though, so we do have that. And it's going to be interesting to see how my thoughts on this change throughout the course of the week. And then as we get closer to, say, Thursday, Friday, we'll start talking more about kind of in-depth lineup construction techniques and things like that. But let's take a look. Last week, by the way, I mean we did very well. And remember, if you remember, I put in a very early bet in the week on Vicente Luque, which was my largest bet actually ever in the UFC. And when you get a plus 140 winning in 40 seconds, it's pretty good. And I'm gonna press my luck. I have another sort of max bet that I like this week. It's not exactly who you might think, but I have a couple of ideas, and we're gonna get to that when we get to it. But first of all, it is a 13 fight card, which it's right in the sweet spot. Uh, it's the size card where you don't have to be that kooky, to compete for big GPPs. Last week was 14 fights, but there were two 5-round fights, so that's very similar to a 13 fight card with respect to how unique you'd have to get. Anyway, we'll get to more of that when we get to lineup construction later in the week. But let's just take a look at this. And right off the bat, um, this first fight, Knudsen versus Pierre Rodriguez, I'm not confident enough to really put a big bet down on this one, but I think Rodriguez is extremely live here, to say the least. You look back at their most recent performances, Pierre Rodriguez was teeing off on Ariane Carnelose. She got a knockdown. Had about 50 significant strikes into the second round. She actually took her down three times, um, and was well on route to winning. Then they had a headbutt, which ended up getting a DQ. So it doesn't show as a win, but I mean, she was definitely going to win, I think. And before that, look, she got armbarred by Julian Robertson. She's not the first person to get armbarred by Julian Robertson. And before that, I have nothing bad to say, and she's a big underdog to Josephine Knudsen. And Knudsen, I mean, look at this. I mean, look, she came into the UFC and beat probably the worst fighter in the UFC in Marnique Mann. Couldn't even finish her. Took her to a 3-round decision at minus 700. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. And against Julia Palastri, she did win. Um, she did win, but she got taken down like three times. Okay, and as a result of that, I think that this matchup for her is for Knudsen, sorry, is not that great. She's shown that she can get taken down. She got taken down, was it three times by Pilastri? And Pierre Rodriguez got, I think, three takedowns of her own against Carnelossi. So you have a good situation here where you have Pierre Rodriguez at 7,400. I think at the very least, if she wins, she's going to score pretty decently. So I actually like her kind of right off the bat. Again, I'm not as confident to make like a big bet or anything like that, but I think right off the bat, she's an extremely strong DFS play. I'm sure that the props are not going to look really good. I mean, none of the women's fights really have great inside the distance lines. I mean, probably both of them are like, plus 500. Let's see. Knudsen plus 550, Rodriguez plus 550. I mean, they're both the same, which is interesting. And Rodriguez is a plus 190 underdog. Anyway, I think Rodriguez is very, very strong DFS play. Um, okay, Davy Grant against Ramon Taveras. Let's take a look at the prices first. All right, this is 8,200 8K. It's this mid-range fight setup is something we should respect, and wish I respected it more last week, I might have gotten to more Eric Anders, and that would have really put me in business. You did need him to make optimal. Already, you have a little bit of line value here. I mean, you have Ramon Tavares up to minus 123 or something like that. It's not that big a deal. 8,200, 8K. You look at the inside the distance lines, can't imagine they're that great. Let's see. Tavares inside, well, I don't know. Tavares inside plus 190, that's pretty good. I mean, Grant inside plus 305 is not very good. So I think that Tavares, at least on the numbers here, looks decent, but for some reason, I did get a knockdown of Saidi, which is something. Is he even really a finisher? This Ramon Tavares, though? Let's take a look. Oh yeah, I guess so. Pretty much almost all of his fights were won by KO or something. Did get away with that split decision against Saidi. I was at that fight actually. I don't remember it though. Um, anyway, the props look decent enough. I guess he's going to look like an okay play. I'd rather not play it, but at that price, that metric, yeah, I think he's probably pretty good. All right, Jamie Lynn Hort versus Miranda Maverick. Okay, so here's the thing: Miranda Maverick is not losing. Um, she has just she has the edge everywhere, as the kids say. She's probably going to take Jamie Lynn Hort down. The thing is, though, about Miranda Maverick, she doesn't really score all that well. Um, Her last two fights, she did exactly what she was wanted to do. She took the opponent down in all three rounds or whatever and got a massive amount of control time, but she doesn't really tee off or anything like that. So that's why you get the scores like 85, 81. Even this 104 against Cachoeira, which was a complete domination, that's not that great. This one, the 119 is good. The Mazo one, second round with four takedowns, five takedowns. These are fine, but 9,400 is a tough price. And considering that you know, she hasn't exactly flashed ceiling that often, probably gonna not want to prioritize her. Jamie Lynn Horth, I'm not betting her as a plus 400 underdog. So this fight's probably sort of a fade. All right, so Felipe Lima versus Miles Johns. This one's a little confusing to me. I mean, at first look, like, what the hell is Felipe Lima doing as the favorite here? Miles Johns is good. Let's see what Felipe Lima has been doing here that makes him so terrific. All right, so we got a third round sub over Naimov. I guess that's pretty good, but Naimov is not great. I don't I don't understand. Again, oh, he's probably like undefeated. All right, so he's hasn't lost ever pretty much since 2015, which is why he's getting all this publicity. Um, but I don't know. Miles Johns is tough. Look at his most recent fights here. Let's see. Hmm. House is fading on me here. What is that? Hold on. Okay. Um, Miles Johns has done nothing wrong since in like 2 years. He beat Dan Argueta. That was a pretty decent win. Cody, all these wins are decent. I mean, it's not like he beat incredible champions or whatever, but I think this line is wide. I don't know. The problem is he's not that great of a scorer, but if you look at some of his recent fights, I mean, he gets takedowns sometimes, right? Two takedowns against Gibson, two takedowns against Argueta. And the thing is that, well, the problem here was I think that I don't know what happened here. I forget. Was he about to get submitted? Is that what ended up happening? I just forgot. They reversed the decision or something. We got to look into this a little bit more, but I think he's a pretty decent underdog here. The thing is, he's not really that active. I don't know if he's going to score all that well, so I'm going to make him just kind of like an okay play. But there's no way I'm playing Lima against Miles Johns here at that price. So unless his inside the distance line is extremely strong. Let's see. No, leave him inside plus 275 at that price. No thanks. So for me, I'll either play some Miles Johns or probably nothing. All right, Fernando Padilla versus Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson doesn't really score all that well. I can promise you, can't promise you, but almost positive I'm not going to be playing him. Let's see. Yeah, Woodson inside the distance plus 375. That's not going to work. Padilla inside plus 315. That's terrible. At these prices, I mean, I guess if anything, Padilla would be the side here as far as DFS goes. He's got knockdowns, two of his last three fights. Knockdowns are sneaky. You know, that's a pretty good scoring event there to be able to get. So I guess he's in play, but Sean Woodson is really good at keeping stuff at range. I think this is another fade fight. All right, Joel Alvarez versus Drakkar Close. Alvarez has a pretty big advantage here. I imagine he's also going to have good metrics. Probably going to be minus 120 inside at least. Let's see. Alvarez inside minus 135. Not bad sheets. In addition to that, might have some takedown upside. No, not really. So that inside the distance line is pretty strong. 9,300 is no bargain though. So we're going to put him in for now, but it's not like he's a lock or anything like that. He's just so far the best of the favorites that we've come across. All right. Michael Johnson versus Ottoman Azatar. Now I remember I watched him fight once, and he was a pick'em against Matt Frivola, and I remember that we just knew that somebody was going to get knocked out in the first round, and in that particular case, it was in fact Azatar who got knocked out in the first round. He, as a matter of fact, has gotten knocked out in the first round in both of his fights. um, since he had that what 2 year layoff. So I don't know about this, Mr. Azatar. I think you might have been fraud checked, so to speak. He's certainly doesn't need the money. I think he's literally a prince or something like that. There was some story behind him. Um, I mean, not that Michael Johnson is any great shakes either. I mean, he's like 100 years old. Man, this is tough. It's another fade fight. How can you fade this? Look at the inside the distance line. This fight's gonna be ridiculous. Let's see. Michael Johnson's last fight had four takedowns. That's something to respect. I mean, you look at this inside the distance line. Let's see what it is. Oh, it's gonna be brutal. Yeah, Johnson inside plus 125. That's better than I. It's not as high as I thought it would be. Azatar inside plus 235. I mean, you're just gonna have to try it, right? I mean, even though I don't really like him, if he wins, he's gonna get a KO. That's the thing. So I guess you have to play this fight. What's Johnson inside? What did I say? Plus 120, plus takedown upside. Yeah, so I think one of these guys you probably want to get in your lineups. Now, who is this? N Sterling against Tuco Tokos? Yikes. Some minus 650, dude. Who is this guy? Navajo Sterling? All right, this is going to be a guy that I'm probably going to have to do some content on because you have this dude who's a 100-to-1 favorite who's like never fought before. I mean, got to have, obviously some kind of hype behind him. We'll take a look at that later. This George Takai here, whatever he got first round subbed by Umar Sy. But wait a minute. But aside from that, I mean, this guy's got wins. I I don't know. I gotta figure out what's going on here. Are there even props yet on this one? Let's see. Yeah, like Sterling inside's like minus 210 is like a lock. Um, okay, if you say so. So you have who's this guy? Some 9,600 guy who's never fought anybody. I don't know. I don't know what to say. We'll get back to that one. But if I didn't know anything, I would say, okay, 9,600 minus 210 inside, probably a little too expensive, but I haven't seen any favorites I really loved so far yet. So maybe he's just going to be in play anyway. Then again, I haven't really seen that many great underdogs yet either, except for the first fight of the night, that women's fight, and then maybe some Azatar as kind of uber speculative play. So I don't know about this one yet. Daniel Marcos versus Adrian Yanez. Um, Daniel Marcos is like 100 and 0, right? He's like 20 and 0. Yanez was coming into the UFC. They thought he was going to be like the greatest thing ever. And he had a couple of first round KOs, very, very quick hands. And then he got just kind of destroyed in round one by Rob Font. And then he got, I think, a tough matchup. Let me just see who was against. He got a really nasty matchup. Oh no, Jonathan Martinez just got just leg kicked him to death. And then he came back and he did beat Vinicius Salvador in one round. Um, I mean, they really made sure that he got a fight that he can win there. Um, so I don't know what to make of him after all that. Then you have Daniel Marcos, who's just never loses. I don't know what else to say. He doesn't really finish everybody though, which is concerning. So we look at the props here. I know what we're going to see. We're going to see Yanez with, probably, I'm just going to guess, what plus 250 inside, maybe? Let's just take a look. Adrian Yanez inside plus 270. Marcos inside plus 180. I mean, either of these guys look good? Does anybody look good this card? I guess Marcos looks like the side at 8,500, but I don't know about this. Um, he doesn't really get takedowns. He's really going to just outstrike Yanez. It feels like a striking battle that no one is going to win. In other words, I think that it's a striking battle that, you're just really relying on their KO upside. Uh, and I think both fighters are just kind of fair. Boy, who are we going to play this fight? This card. I think we got to be able to get to somebody soon. I'm going to get to one in a minute, but so far this is a pretty atrocious card with finding core plays. Um, so I guess Marcos is fair enough at 8,500, but I just feel like Giannis is going to win. I don't know what else to say. All right, Victor Petrino against Dustin Jacoby. Petrino is very, very aggressive, and Jacoby has been. I don't know what happened to this guy. I mean, he was basically just not destroying. He in my opinion, he beat Chaos Williams. Where was that? Khalil Roundtree, but they gave Roundtree the decision there. And then he lost to Murzakanov, which is not that bad of a loss. He got the first round KO against Kenny Njoku, and then he lost just an atrocious decision to Alonzo Menefield, and then just got blasted by Dominic Reyes. I just I just think he's got to have something left. I think he's got another couple of good ones in him. I think he's a pretty decent big underdog here. That's just my opinion. Crap. And you have Victor Petrino, who was just kind of rolling. He beat the Pleasure Man in a wild fight. He got Prachnio late. Bukauskas round two, and kind of a boring fight against Pedro. And then he lost in like 2 minutes to Anthony Smith. So I don't know, like who died and left him a 9,100, or what is he, 2.5 to 1 favorite? I don't know. I know that by the end of the week, I'm going to have some confidence in some of these fighters, but him at 3-1, I almost want to just bet Jacoby and be done with this. Let's take a look though. Petrino inside the distance is going to be minus 130, as I imagine. Sure. Um, so he's just going to look like a decent play. Jacoby inside just for funsies, plus 375. It's not bad, I have to say. Uh, Unfortunately, with those, that is this inside the distance line reminds me too much of the Dominic Reyes line from this past week, that 9,100 with the minus 130, and he basically broke the slate. So I think this is a sneaky fight to make sure you play both sides of. I don't know. I don't know why I have this confidence that Jacoby is better than he's shown in his last couple of fights, but I do think that he's live as a big underdog here. All right, but I'm not betting him. We'll get to what I'm betting in a minute. All right, Manel Kopp versus Bruno Silva. This is the good Bruno Silva, not the one that just basically just retired, I think. So this Bruno Silva has just done nothing wrong. I don't know what the problem is. He gets nothing. He just finishes people. Now he hasn't finished, the greatest fighters in the world, but he's listen, look at all these knockdowns. Three knockdowns, one knockdown, one knockdown, one knockdown. The guy's a freaking killer. Okay. But hasn't been fighting the greatest level of competition. He's definitely stepping up against Manel Cap. But Manel Cap never scores anything. Okay. I shouldn't say never. I mean, he's done it before. I mean, here against Zumagulov, two knockdowns. I mean, first round, 130. Obviously, that's a huge number. But aside from that, he's a striker who, has gone to decision in his last two wins. You know, at 9,200, that's not going to work. So I don't think I'm going to be playing him. I'm assuming his inside the distance line is going to be very poor for his price, especially with no takedown upside here. You have Cop inside plus 250. We can't do that. If anything, I would play Silva at plus 400 inside. I think he's a much better play. The only thing I would say, though, is that Jacoby, I think, is a little bit better because, and this is going to be more of a lineup construction discussion, but I think Petrino is going to take money. I mean, his metrics are so strong that he's going to take a lot of ownership. So if you could play Jacoby and get away with it, you're going to get that leverage against people that play Petrino. Where I don't think Manel Kopp is going to be particularly high owned because of his poor metrics. So I don't think you get the same leverage with Silva, but you just get so much upside in his wins that you probably should get some of him. All right, this next fight, I'm just going to be the sucker. I was the sucker last week when I said I don't get the Luque line. I think Garimbo's fought nobody, and I think Luque is going to win. And I basically max bet him. And here, I don't quite get this one either from the other perspective. I don't see a world where Billy Quarantillo loses this fight. Okay. He's fighting a 43-year-old. Is he 43? 41? He's fighting a 41-year-old guy. And his main edge, Quarantillo, is being a cardio bully and to get the best of people by just continuing to press and press. There's no way he's losing to a 41-year-old guy like that. It's just no possible way. Okay, he lost to Zalal. So Zalal's a freaking animal. Right? He's incredible right now. He beat Damon Jackson. He got caught by Edson Barboza, with the knee or whatever. Aside from that, I mean, he got a big war with Shane Burgos. This is an amazing fight. He always just brings the heat. He's not losing. I'm sorry. We're gonna bet him at minus 150. So we're gonna go right on here, get right back into the mix here, and we'll just lock that in right now. Before this line's gonna go up, it just is, isn't it? It's not. Is it UFC 11? Is that what it is or no? No, it's UFC Tampa. That's what it is. Okay, yeah. So we're just gonna do this. I'm sorry. Quarantino, and we're gonna max bet this one for 1,800. Sorry about this. I mean, I'm sure everybody's gonna be on the same side, but I just don't get this at all. Okay. Uh, and as he's also gonna be an incredible play in on DraftKings. I imagine his inside the distance line is going to be decent enough, but he's going to have so much volume and takedown upside as well. I mean, I think that how is everybody not going to play him? He's inside of plus 155 plus takedown upside. I mean, this is the best play. Billy Q is definitely the best play on the slate, I think. At least on, late Monday night. Um, okay. And then in the main event, Buckley versus Covington. I mean, you got 5 rounds with guys that put up a lot of events, and you're just going to have to play both of these guys. You just have to, considering what I've said about these other fights. I mean, these other fights have not been particularly inspiring, you know. So as a result of that, I mean, you need upside from somewhere, and this fight is 5 rounds to work with, and you have both these guys can just generate a lot of fantasy points. So I think that you play both these guys. I mean, pretty easily. So as of Monday night, we do we have key fights? Okay. Buckley Covington, definitely. Let's just put in the favorite for now. You definitely want to play Billy Q. And aside from that, I mean, what am I particularly comfortable with? Okay, I think obviously Pierre Rodriguez is a good looking underdog. Maybe this Azatar fight, make sure you play that. Let's say you played any of these. Then I think you're probably punting with one of these spots, either Jacoby. Who else did I say? Well, you play Jacoby, then life is easy, right? Then you can play whoever you want. So yeah, so you can play either Jacoby or if you want, you can play Azatar instead of Johnson. Then you don't have to play Jacoby. But I think Bruno Silva's in play. Um, but overall, that's pretty much what I like. So again, summarizing the summary. Okay. Underdogs, Pierre Rodriguez, I guess Azatar, I guess uh, Covington in the main event. You have to respect that price. Bruno Silva, Jacoby is a punt. And then Quarantine in the mid range is just going to be, I imagine it can be 45% owned. People have been playing him, and well, I guess they haven't been doing so well with him recently, so maybe they don't play him. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Quarantillo in my big buy-ins. There's just no way I'm not. I'm playing somebody from Covington, Buckley in the main event. Probably at the end of the day, I'll probably end up playing Rodriguez and then somebody from the Ozatar Johnson fight. And I do have to look into this Tokus fight again, whoever that person is. Miles Johns. I mean, now that I think about Miles Johns just for win equity, is that enough? Maybe. But that's my view as of Monday night, and we'll either do one again tomorrow night or maybe Wednesday morning. And once we have a little more content, especially that fight I just talked about, I need to bone up a little more on some of these other fights. But until then, that's going to do it.